Please, those are my glasses, the boy whispered. Sit down and stop causing trouble. The flight attendant snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut through the hum of Gate C-17. Kevin Parker, 10 years old, small hands clutching a scratch backpack, blinked hard. Without his glasses, the world dissolved into colored blurs, the announcement screens, the rows of tired travelers, even his mother's worried face. He reached again, blind and shaking. The flight attendant stepped back, heels clicking like taps of judgment on the polished Dallas terminal floor. I told you, young man, you wait until we decide where you're seated. His glasses lay between them, bent sharply at the bridge, broken clean in two. A murmur rippled through the boarding line. People watched, unsure, uncomfortable. Some folded arms. Some looked away. No one spoke. No one except the janitor. He had been sweeping near the corner windows, an older man in a faded maintenance jacket, gray at the temples, dark skin creased with years and patience. His name tag read only E. Miles. He paused, leaned gently on the handle of the broom, and looked at the boy. Ma'am, he said softly, I believe you owe him an apology. The flight attendant bristled, lips tight. You need to stay in your lane, sir. This is airline policy. The janitor didn't move, didn't raise his voice. He just looked at Kevin, steady, calm, like someone seeing past the blur and fear. Kevin's mother, Angela, knelt beside her son, fishing desperately in her bag for tape that wasn't there. She sounded near tears. He can't fly without them. He can't even read without them. Please, just help us. The attendant folded her arms. Not my problem. Your child needs to learn respect. The janitor's broom tapped once on the floor, a quiet sound, but it carried. Like a gavel. Like a warning. Somewhere overhead, a boarding announcement echoed, cold and official. Passengers shifted. Camera phones rose, subtle as guilty thoughts. Angela took her son's trembling hand. Kevin, stay close, baby. And still the janitor watched, eyes thoughtful, unreadable. Almost like a man deciding how far he was willing to go. Almost like someone with authority no one else could see. The gate agent lifted a microphone. Final boarding call. The moment tightened like a held breath. Because no one yet knew. The quiet janitor wasn't just staff. He was the man who owned the airline. Enjoying this? Tap subscribe for tomorrow's story. 3 hours earlier, before the glasses snapped and the crowd turned silent, Terminal C at Dallas International had just been noisy and ordinary. Angela Parker sat hunched in a row of blue vinyl seats, checking the time on her phone for the third time in as many minutes. The bright letters glowed back, Flight 782 Dallas to Cleveland on time. The date in the corner read April 10th. She glanced at her son. Kevin sat beside her, legs swinging, his big round glasses slightly crooked on his nose. He stared down at a dog-eared book pressed so close to his face the pages almost touched his eyelashes. Even with his strong prescription, he needed to be near the words to read them clearly. Don't strain so hard, baby, Angela murmured. We'll get you to that doctor. He's the best one they've got. Kevin smiled, the kind that tried to be brave. I know, Mom. I like this part. The hero finally gets picked for the team. Her chest tightened. Then read it to me. Nice and slow. He did, stumbling over a few words, but still proud. It had been a long road of eye tests, school notes home, and late-night internet searches. The clinic in Cleveland had a specialist who saw kids like Kevin, kids whose eyesight was slipping faster than anyone wanted to admit. Missing this appointment meant waiting another 6 months. 6 months of confusing chalkboards and headaches, and Kevin coming home quiet instead of talkative. Angela wasn't going to let that happen. Across the polished floor, the janitor worked his way along the windows. His cart rolled softly, a single squeaky wheel marking each push. He moved with unhurried patience, collecting coffee cups and crumpled napkins left behind by travelers in a hurry to be somewhere else. His name tag caught the light when he passed a sunbeam, E. Miles. He paused when he reached their row. You two headed somewhere nice? He asked gently. Angela smiled, though tired lines framed her eyes. Cleveland. Doctor for my son. Kevin turned the book sideways to see the man better. It's for my eyes, he explained. They say I see like looking through fog. The janitor nodded, his gaze thoughtful and kind. Fog can clear, he said. Sometimes you just need the right light. There was something measured in his voice, like a man used to choosing words carefully. He checked the departure screen above the gate, then the boarding door, then Angela's boarding passes in her hand, quick, subtle glances that didn't match someone who only cared about trash bins and mop water. But if Angela noticed, she was too anxious to say so. She rubbed the little crease in the corner of Kevin's glasses where the frame had once cracked and been patched with drugstore glue. "We just need this flight to go smoothly," she murmured. "Just this one thing." As if on cue, a flight attendant in a crisp uniform strode up the counter, heels tapping briskly. Her name tag read K. Dalton. She gave a tight smile to the gate agent, adjusted her scarf, and swept the crowd with the assessing gaze. Her eyes lingered on Angela's worn carry-on and Kevin's taped-up backpack. The PA system buzzed overhead. "Attention passengers for Flight 782 to Cleveland. Boarding will begin in approximately 20 minutes. Angela straightened. She checked the clock again. They were early, on time organized. Boarding passes ready. Medical records folder in her bag. Prescription copy too. They had done everything right. For a brief, fragile moment, she allowed herself to believe the day might actually go according to plan. Across the way, the janitor set his broom against his cart and studied the gate more closely, like a man watching a storm forming far off on a clear horizon, before anyone else could see the clouds. He didn't know it yet, but soon his quiet choice at this gate would change everything. Boarding began smoothly enough. Passengers stood and gathered their things, lines forming like rivers, slow, winding, and patient. Angela placed a guiding hand on Kevin's shoulder and stepped into the queue. His glasses slid down again, and she nudged them back gently. "Hold on to me," she whispered. He nodded, book tucked under his arm like treasure. Ahead, Flight Attendant K. Dalton scanned boarding passes with clipped precision, her smile practiced, her tone efficient. Each beep of her handheld scanner sounded like a verdict. Approved, approved, approved. When it was finally their turn, Angela exhaled with relief and held out their passes. Dalton barely glanced before her expression stiffened. "You're in 22B and 22C?" "Yes, ma'am." Angela offered a small, hopeful smile. "We checked in early." Dalton tapped the screen. "There's been an equipment swap. Rows 22 to 24 are reassigned. You'll need to wait off to the side while we sort your seats." Angela's face fell. "We have a medical appointment. We really need to stay together." Dalton breathed out through her nose, thin and sharp. "Everyone needs something. Please step aside." Passengers shuffled past them, boarding one by one. Kevin blinked rapidly, trying to read the screen beyond the desk, but the numbers were fuzzy halos. He tugged at Angela's sleeve. "Will we miss the flight?" he asked. "No," she said, determined, but her voice wavered. Minutes crawled, and the line thinned. Families, business travelers, elderly couples, all walking through the jetway while Angela and Kevin waited like forgotten luggage. The janitor, broom in hand, watched for short distance, still silent, still observing. His eyes were steady, focused not on trash bins but on every interaction at the counter, every flicker of Dalton's expression. At last, when only a few stragglers remained, Dalton turned to them with visible impatience. "All right, standby seating is all that's left. You'll have to wait until the cabin lead approves it." Angela's breath caught. "Standby? But we have tickets. We checked in." "We?" Dalton's hand sliced the air. "Ma'am, step back." Something inside Angela trembled, the part of her that had stayed patient through insurance calls and school notes and sleepless nights. But before she could respond, another passenger accidentally brushed Kevin's arm, knocking his book to the floor. He bent to grab it, and his glasses slipped free. The frames hit the tile. A small crack. A soft gasp. He reached blindly, fingers missing the edge. Dalton stepped forward to hurry them along, and her heel came down. A sharp snap echoed. Kevin froze. Angela stared at the broken pieces, horror washing through her. "No." Dalton recoiled, not apologetic, but indignant. "That shouldn't have been on the floor. Control your child." Kevin's eyes filled, the world dissolving into fog and confusion. He reached for the broken glasses, but could only find one half. Angela's throat tightened. "He can't see without them. Please, you have to help us." Dalton crossed her arms. "I don't have to do anything." That was when the janitor stepped forward. He rested both hands calmly on his broom. "Miss Dalton," he said, voice low but clear, "this isn't the way we treat people. Not in this terminal. Not in this airline." She turned, irritated. "You don't have authority to speak on policy." A faint, almost resigned smile touched his lips, like a man who had spent years trying to stay quiet and had finally reached his line. "On the contrary," he said softly, "I have more authority here than you know." Dalton blinked, thrown for the first time. Angela watched, heart pounding. Kevin, half blind but listening, held still. And the janitor stepped closer, as if ready to reveal a truth no one was expecting. The gate area had gone eerily still. A few passengers who had finished boarding lingered just inside the jetway door, watching. Two others nearby paused mid-step, unsure whether they should intervene or pretend they hadn't seen anything. The overhead speakers crackled out another final boarding reminder, but the tension at the desk drowned it out. Dalton's jaw tightened. "Your maintenance staff," she said, voice clipped. "You don't get to question crew decisions." The janitor, E. Miles, did not raise his voice. "I'm asking for empathy, Miss Dalton. A child's health is at stake." Angela clutched Kevin close, terrified of making this worse, yet unable to stay silent. "Please, we just need 2 seats together. Any row. I'll even stand if I have to." "You cannot stand on a commercial flight," Dalton snapped, as if waiting for a reason to deny them on policy alone. Kevin wiped his eyes, trying to blink through the blur. "Ma'am, I didn't mean to drop them." Dalton huffed. "I'm not responsible for what you break." The crowd murmured, soft disapproval rising like a tide. A man in a baseball cap muttered, "That's rough," while a woman in a denim jacket shook her head. A teenager near the window quietly lifted her phone, recording. E. Miles noticed the camera, but didn't react with panic or anger. Instead, he placed his broom gently against the wall, straightened the small creases in his jacket, and stepped beside the counter like someone who'd stood there many times before, on the other side with different authority. A subtle shift. Dalton hesitated, off balance. "Sir, you need to move. You're blocking the boarding area." Miles nodded once, slowly. "Not until this family is treated fairly." The gate agent, nervous, younger, leaned toward Dalton. "Should we notify the supervisor?" Dalton scoffed. "For what? A janitor interrupting normal procedure?" "No. We handle this." But her voice wavered. Angela bent to pick up the 2 bent pieces of Kevin's glasses. One hinge hung loose. The bridge was cracked through the metal. She tried to hold them together with her thumb, but they sagged hopelessly. Kevin's hand reached blindly for hers. "I can still go, Mom. I don't need to read." Her heart broke in quiet pieces. She swallowed hard, keeping her voice low. "You do need to read, sweetheart. And you deserve dignity, too." Behind the desk, Dalton typed something quickly, maybe seat reassignments, maybe a note. "We are full. No more seats. They'll have to rebook." Miles' eyes flickered to the computer screen. His brow knit, not in ignorance, but recognition. "You're holding 2 open in first," he said quietly. Dalton's head snapped up. Her surprise was telling. "How do you know that?" she demanded. Miles did not answer directly. He simply met her stare, steady as stone. Angela felt hope spark and fear chase after it. "Is that true? Just 2 seats? That's all we need." Dalton exhaled sharply. "That section is for priority passengers only. They paid for it." Kevin squeezed his mother's fingers, lost in a blur, but listening to every word. Miles drew a breath, as though weighing something deep and long-kept. "Seats are paid for with money," he murmured. "But humanity is paid for with choices." The gate agent swallowed, uneasy. "Maybe we should ask the supervisor," she whispered again. Dalton glanced between the watching passengers, the recording phone, the trembling child, and the quiet janitor who stood like he had stood in boardrooms. Something in her confidence began to crack, faint but real. Miles rested one hand on the counter. "Let's bring over the supervisor," he said. "It's time." And Angela knew the moment was shifting. Not fast, but like a wheel turning. The supervisor arrived 5 minutes later, shoes crisp against the tile, headset blinking softly. His badge read Operations Lead Thomas Grant. He approached with polite authority, clipboard tucked under one arm, eyes scanning the tense semicircle of onlookers. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked, voice neutral but alert. Dalton straightened immediately. This passenger's child dropped his glasses. They broke, and now they're demanding special treatment. They want first-class access without proper status or payment. I followed policy. Grant turned to Angela. Ma'am. Angela's throat was tight, but she kept her voice steady. My son needs to see a specialist today. We bought seats together. There was a reassignment, and now we're stranded, and he can't see without those glasses. We just need 2 seats so he can make his appointment. Kevin held onto her coat sleeve like an anchor. I said sorry, he whispered. Grant's gaze softened briefly. Then he looked at Miles. And you are? Dalton jumped in before he could answer. He's a custodian. He has no authority in seating disputes. Miles did not correct her, not yet. He only nodded toward the boy. I witnessed the exchange. I only asked that compassion guide the decision. Grant studied him longer this time, too long for someone speaking to just a janitor. You've been here a while, haven't you? Grant asked. A few years, Miles replied quietly. Passengers shifted nearer, sensing change. One woman called out. It was an accident. The child shouldn't lose his seat for that. Another nodded. He needs those doctor appointments. This could be serious. Dalton bristled at the growing pressure. We can't give away first class because people feel emotional. Rules matter. Miles inhaled slowly, controlled, measured. Rules matter, he agreed. But their purpose is to support dignity, not deny it. Grant opened the manifest tablet and scrolled. His brows lifted. There are 2 first-class seats open, he confirmed. And 1 in economy. Dalton stepped forward sharply. I already told them, first is for priority. And this situation, Grant said quietly, is not standard. Dalton's eyes flashed, defiance mixed with unease. If we start bending rules for every case that tugs on heartstrings, the whole system collapses. Angela felt her hope waver. Please, she said, barely above a whisper. My son's eyesight is getting worse every month. We won't ask for anything else. Grant glanced to Miles again. Their silence held history. Dalton pressed harder. If they can't comply, we rebook them. I have authority to close the gate in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Angela's breath stopped. Kevin squeezed her hand. Mom, I don't want to stay here. And that, more than anything, made Miles straighten. For the first time, his calm shifted. Not anger. Resolve. Miss Dalton, he said gently, do you truly believe your uniform grants you the right to strip a child of dignity? Dalton's face reddened. You don't get to talk to me like. Grant cut in slow and deliberate. Emily, do you know who you're speaking to? Silence cracked across the terminal. Dalton frowned, refusing confusion. A janitor. Grant exhaled, a quiet sigh, like a truth finally unlatched. I strongly suggest you reconsider that assumption. Passengers leaned closer. Phones hovered. Atmosphere tightened like a held breath. And Miles, calm, still, unshaken, rested his hand once more on the counter. He was done hiding. Next breath, the truth would turn the room. Miles didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply reached inside his jacket, removed a slim leather wallet, and placed 1 card flat on the counter. Not rushed. Not boastful. Just a quiet laying down of truth. The gold-embossed letters shone under the fluorescent lights. Elliot Miles, chairman and founder, Skylink Air Group. Dalton's breath caught. Grant blinked once, jaw tightening in recognition he had kept politely hidden until now. Several waiting passengers gasped. One woman whispered, "Oh my goodness," while a teenage boy nearly dropped his phone recording. Angela stared, stunned. Kevin leaned forward, squinting, unable to read the words, but sensing the shift all the same. Dalton swallowed hard. This must be a misunderstanding. This is. Miles spoke gently. Yes, I sweep floors. I empty trash. I walk slow routes through terminals every week. I listen before I leave. He looked at her, not with anger, but with disappointment that felt heavier. When I step back from the CEO's chair, I walk unseen. It reminds me why I built this airline, not for status, but for service. Dalton's voice thinned. If I had known, you would have acted differently, Miles finished for her. But kindness shouldn't depend on who's watching. The terminal fell into reverent stillness. Grant straightened his clipboard, posture respectful. Mr. Miles, how would you like us to proceed? Miles turned to Angela. Her hands trembled around Kevin's broken glasses. Mrs. Parker, he said softly, using her name without asking for it, as if he had observed everything, including her patience. You and your son will sit in first class today. I'll arrange replacements for his eyewear within the hour, delivered to the aircraft. Angela's lips parted, relief crashing through her like light. Thank you. I don't know how to. You don't owe me anything, he said kindly. This airline owes you a safe and fair experience. Kevin blinked toward Miles' voice. Are you the boss? Miles crouched until their eyes were level. I am one of many who try to make this place better. But today you reminded me why I need to try harder. Kevin nodded, not fully understanding, but trusting the tone. My glasses are broken. I can't see good. Miles' chest tightened. I'll fix that, son. You have my word. Dalton stepped back, voice thin and shaky. I was only following protocol. I didn't mean harm. Miles looked at her steadily. Protocols guide us, but compassion defines us. Today, you let procedure overshadow humanity. She opened her mouth, searching for defense that wouldn't come. Miles stood again, calm but unwavering. Grant, assign Mrs. Parker and Kevin seats 2A and 2B. And please ensure Dalton receives compliance retraining and observation for future assignments. Dalton's shoulders slumped, not fired, but held accountable. He could have crushed her career. He chose reform instead. Passengers murmured, approving. One man wiped his eyes. Someone gave a quiet clap, not applause, but gratitude breathing out. Angela held Kevin close, relief spreading warm and trembling. Miles rested a gentle hand on Kevin's shoulder. When you're settled in your seat, I'll have someone bring. From inside the jetway, a voice suddenly called. Gate closing in 60 seconds. Miles' eyes sharpened. Time mattered now. The boy must reach Cleveland. And everything still depended on what happened next. 30 minutes after the aircraft pushed back from Gate C-17, Elliot Miles sat alone in the operations conference room. No broom, no janitor's jacket now, just a folded maintenance shirt beside him like a reminder of where empathy begins. He had chosen not to board with Angela and Kevin. This moment, the aftermath, mattered just as much as getting them to Cleveland. Grant entered first, tablet in hand. Dalton followed, uniform crisp, posture straight, but her expression humbled, stripped of certainty. She stood near the wall, not in defense this time, but in acceptance. Miles looked between them. What we witnessed today cannot be ignored, he said softly. We do not lead by rank. We lead by how we treat the least visible person in the room. Dalton's voice, when it came, was quiet. I was wrong. I saw a crowded gate, tight schedules, anxious passengers, and I let pressure turn to impatience. She clasped her hands, not pleading, but acknowledging. I want to earn back the trust one damaged. Miles nodded, not dismissive, but measured. You will be placed on a guided retraining program. Not as punishment, but growth. You will shadow disability assistance teams, medical priority boarding, and community relations staff for 6 weeks. Her eyes lifted, relieved to be given a path instead of a closed door. I understand, and I will do it. He continued, voice steady. We will also review procedural language that leaves families like the Parkers without support. Medical need must not be buried behind policy lines. Grant tapped his tablet. I can coordinate a task force by tomorrow. HR, accessibility compliance, training leads. A full review. Miles nodded approvingly. Good. Let today be the catalyst. Dalton spoke again, small, but sincere. May I write a personal letter to the Parkers? Not for protocol. For decency. Miles softened. Yes, that would be right. A knock sounded at the door. A young agent stepped in, holding a printed message sheet. Update from Flight 782, sir. Mrs. Parker asked the crew to pass this along. Miles accepted the slip, unfolding it slowly. In neat handwriting. Mr. Miles, thank you for giving my son back more than his sight. You gave him dignity. Angela. Beneath it, a second line in shaky pencil strokes. Thank you for new glasses. I like the clouds outside the window. They look bright. Kevin. Miles closed his eyes briefly, breathing the quiet weight of why leadership matters. He placed the note on the table where everyone could see it. This, he said, is our standard now. Dalton nodded, emotion glassing her eyes. Grant straightened, resolved. Outside the window, another plane lifted into the dusk, its belly glinting in the fading sun, a small miracle held aloft by steel and humanity. Miles rose. One more thing, he added. Going forward, I'll be spending 1 week a month back in uniform, maintenance rotation. If we forget the ground, we forget the people we serve. Grant smiled faintly. It'll shake the system. In a good way. Dalton breathed out, like hope slowly returning. The janitor's broom leaned quietly in the corner of the room, unseen by most, essential to one. Tomorrow, policies would shift. Tomorrow, more eyes would see clearly, on board and on the ground. But tonight, the plane carried a boy toward the care he needed, and the airline carried a lesson toward change. Cleveland's late evening air settled cool across the tarmac as Flight 782 rolled to a slow, steady stop. The cabin lights dimmed, and sleepy passengers unbuckled quietly. But in seats 2A and 2B, one boy sat upright, wide-eyed, glasses shining beneath the soft overhead glow. He could see. Not perfectly. Not forever. But clearly enough to read the safety card, the magazine cover, his mother's relieved smile. Angela cupped his cheek gently. You did so well today. Kevin blinked at her, marveling not just at sight, but at clarity. Faces, shapes, colors no longer blurred into guessing. I like seeing things, he said. People look different when I can see them. Her voice wavered. Yes, they do. The medical team's van waited just beyond the jet bridge, arranged hours ago by Miles' instruction. A woman in a soft blue coat stepped forward. Dr. Lorraine Harris, pediatric ophthalmology. Not rushed. Not distant. Ready. Angela approached her with gratitude, almost too heavy to carry. We're here, Angela whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Her body knew the cost of this journey, fear, humiliation, hope, but her heart held only the outcome. Kevin tugged the doctor's sleeve. I want to fix my eyes. Can you help me read more books? Dr. Harris knelt to meet him. I'll do everything I can. And we'll do it together. Angela exhaled, a full-body release of a burden carried too long. While nurses checked paperwork, Dalton stood just behind them, allowed by Miles to accompany the transfer. She held a small envelope. Her voice trembled, but she spoke. Mrs. Parker. Kevin, I'm sorry for how I treated you. I let stress become indifference, and it hurt you both. I'm learning why that's not acceptable. This, she extended the envelope, is a voucher for future travel arranged through Mr. Miles. And a written apology. A real one. Angela studied her, no longer seeing enemy, but someone capable of growth. Thank you, Angela said, steady and sincere. We accept. Dalton's eyes shined, not from defeat, but from being granted grace she hadn't expected. Kevin added softly, You helped us get on the plane after. That was nice. Dalton smiled through the ache. I'm trying. The doctor called them into the waiting van. Angela paused at the doorway, looking back once, at the airport lights, the plane, the gate where everything changed. She whispered into Kevin's hair. We made it. The van pulled away, carrying them toward treatment, toward possibility. Inside Dallas, hours later, Miles walked back into the staff wing. Maintenance jacket returned to his shoulders, broom in hand once more. Staff looked up and whispered. Not out of intimidation, but respect. He swept slowly along the quiet, gleaming floor. One path, one purpose. The airline would change, not with press statements or grand gestures, but with daily action, policy review, training that taught dignity before procedure. People would talk about the boy, the gate, the founder with a broom. But future passengers wouldn't need to know why things were kinder, only that they were. Angela slept that night in a hotel near the Cleveland Clinic, Kevin tucked close beside her. His new glasses rested on the nightstand. The future was still uncertain. Treatments ahead, appointments, patients required. But they would face it together. And now they would face it with sight. 6 months later. Autumn sunlight spilled through the living room window of the Parker home in Cleveland, catching motes of dust like tiny planets turning in slow orbit. A school bus rumbled to a stop outside, brakes sighing in the cool air. The front door swung open. Kevin stepped inside, backpack slung comfortably, glasses shining strong and unbroken. New frames. New lenses. A sturdy case clipped proudly to the zipper. He walked with confidence now, eyes clear enough to notice details others missed. "Mom," he called, kicking off his shoes. "Guess what?" Angela turned from the kitchen table, where a stack of doctor reports lay beside color drawings he'd made over the months of treatment. "What happened?" Kevin grinned. "I read the morning announcements today." Out loud. Everyone clapped. She crossed the room, arms already waiting. "I'm so proud of you. You earned every bit of that moment." He hugged her tight, then pulled free with excitement sparking in his voice. "And Mrs. Tanner gave me a library card. I can borrow 6 books now." Angela laughed softly, grateful, steady, healed in ways she couldn't have predicted back at Gate C-17. Later that evening, a knock came at the door. Angela opened it to find a simple package. No company logos, just a handwritten label. "For Kevin, keep reading. Keep looking forward. A. Miles." Inside was a note and something wrapped in soft cloth. Kevin unfolded it slowly. Glasses. The same model he wore now, but the signature accent along the temples, a brushed gold hinge, matched only one other pair ever made. Elliot Miles' own spare set. Gift. A symbol. A shared clarity. Kevin's voice was small with awe. "Mom, he remembered me." Angela touched the frames reverently. "Yes, sweetheart. Because you mattered." And then Kevin noticed something else inside the box. A single boarding pass for an upcoming trip back to Dallas. An invitation to tour the airline's operations floor, meet staff, speak to trainees learning compassion first. A handwritten line read, "Not charity, partnership. Your story helps us see better too." Angela felt tears gather, not of sorrow, but of fullness. She knelt beside her son. "You changed more than your own world, Kevin. You helped change theirs." He wasn't sure what that meant yet, not completely, but someday he would. For now, he only saw the future as color, shape, clarity. A horizon no longer blurred beyond reach. He gently placed Miles' gifted glasses beside his own on the bookshelf. 2 pairs side by side. A reminder of sight gained, and hearts shifted. Outside, the wind rustled leaves. Inside, Kevin opened a library book and began reading aloud, slow, careful, but strong. 1 page, then another. No struggle, only possibility. A boy who once squinted to see the world now moved through it with vision. A mother who once feared time slipping away now breathed easy in evenings filled with sound and light. And somewhere across the country, in a corner of a busy airport, a janitor's broom swept softly across polished floors, its quiet strokes a promise that leadership begins where humility stands. Andy, thanks for watching.